Over morning coffee, a gentle touch on the shoulder during a stressful day, or the quiet act of listening when the other spoke. Those little gestures had once been the glue that held love together, or so she believed. Lately, though, her own marriage had begun to feel empty. The house, with its polished floors and bright walls, looked perfect on the outside, but echoed with silence within. Her husband, David, the man she had married 8 years ago, was kind. Never cruel, never harsh. Yet there was a growing distance in him that left her feeling invisible. Work seemed to own him. His phone buzzed late into the night. His voice often clipped as he handled urgent calls that couldn't wait. Meetings bled into dinner hours. And even when he was home, his attention remained elsewhere, eyes darting to glowing screens instead of her face. Their conversations had shrunk to logistics. Did you pay the electricity bill? What's for dinner? Don't forget the dry cleaning. Each exchange was practical, necessary, but devoid of warmth. Elena missed what used to live between those moments. A shared laugh, a passing compliment, a touch that said she mattered. She didn't just want to be noticed. She wanted to be felt. One quiet Thursday afternoon, after another day filled with nothing but chores and unanswered silences, Elena felt a sudden need to do something for herself, something that reminded her she was more than a routine. She booked a massage at a small studio across town, a simple act of self-care her friend had suggested to ease the tension she carried. The place was tucked away inside a converted townhouse, plain and unassuming from the outside, yet oddly comforting. As she stepped in, soft instrumental music filled the air, wrapping around her like a gentle welcome. If you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and tap the like. Your support helps us share more powerful, unforgettable stories every single week. Elena had always believed that marriage was meant to be a refuge, a space where two souls found comfort not just in grand declarations of love, but in the simple, everyday gestures that built a quiet intimacy. A shared laugh, a touch in passing, a knowing glance that said, "I'm here." Inside the studio, the calming scent of lavender and sandalwood hung in the air, soothing her senses almost instantly. A receptionist greeted her with a gentle smile, handed her a clipboard to fill out, and motioned toward the waiting area. The soft lighting and plush chairs seemed to invite rest. Elena sank into one, exhaling slowly, as though releasing months of tension compressed into days. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to just be. A few minutes later, a man approached, Marcus, her assigned therapist. He was taller than she had expected, his frame strong yet relaxed, his demeanor calm but quietly self-assured in a way that unsettled her just slightly. "Mrs. Collins?" he asked, his tone professional, smooth. "Yes," she replied softly, suddenly aware of how small and fragile she felt in that moment. She followed him down a short hallway into the massage room. The space was dimly lit, a single lamp casting a soft golden glow that made the walls seem to breathe warmth. At the center stood a neatly prepared table draped in white linen. On a nearby counter, small bottles of essential oils reflected the light like amber glass jewels, their fragrances mingling in the air. Marcus gestured toward a chair. "You can leave your things here. I'll step out for a moment while you get comfortable," he said. His voice even and polite, as the door clicked shut behind him. Elena's hands trembled faintly, not from fear, but from the unfamiliar feeling of being alone in a space meant purely for her comfort. She lay down on the table, pulled the towel gently over her shoulders, and tried to slow her breathing. When Marcus returned, his movements were calm and deliberate. He adjusted the table height, poured a bit of oil into his hands, and began working on her shoulders. The first touch was enough to undo her composure. A wave of release spread through her body, unraveling tension she hadn't even realized she'd been carrying. She exhaled softly, a sound that seemed to carry months of exhaustion in a single breath. Every press of his hands, every careful knead of her muscles reminded her just how long it had been since anyone had touched her with genuine care. Not out of duty, but out of simple, human attentiveness. For a while she focused only on the physical sensations, the smooth glide of his palms, the slow unraveling of tension as her body yielded to calm. Yet her mind began to drift. Beneath the surface of relaxation, thoughts of her marriage surfaced, the quiet, aching absence that had crept into her life. David's presence had become predictable, almost mechanical, useful in function, but empty of tenderness. There was no malice in him, just distance, the kind that left her unseen. Marcus's touch was purely professional, and she knew that. Still, her mind betrayed her, contrasting the mindful care she felt now with the cold, distracted silence she lived with at home. Elena closed her eyes, sinking deeper into the table. It wasn't only her muscles that were loosening. Something inside her was unclenching too. In the dim glow of the room, a forgotten memory flickered. David's laugh from years ago, the warmth in his voice when he once called her beautiful without reason. The memory stung. She realized how deeply she'd missed those simple affirmations. The ones that used to remind her she mattered. The session continued quietly, each precise movement drawing her further into a calm she hadn't known she needed. Her thoughts flowed freely now, about her marriage, about how love could fade without either person meaning it to, and about what she might need to do to find herself again. By the time Marcus finished, a strange lightness filled her chest. It wasn't just relief, it was clarity. She dressed slowly, savoring the peace that lingered in the air. It wasn't indulgence, she realized. It was survival. Taking care of herself was not selfish. It was necessary. She thanked Marcus, who remained calm and professional to the end, then stepped outside. The cool air met her skin, crisp and grounding. As she walked back to her car, Elena carried with her something she hadn't felt in months. A quiet strength, a fragile but real sense that she was still there, still capable of being whole again. She had learned something simple, yet profound. Intimacy was never built on grand gestures or fleeting bursts of passion alone. It lived in the quiet details, in noticing, in showing up, in small, deliberate acts of care that stitched two people back together. She understood now that she wanted to bring that presence back into her marriage, to create spaces where she and David could truly see one another again. It wouldn't be easy. Love, like a garden, needed tending. Neglect only invited distance. But she also knew something she hadn't before, that caring for herself wasn't selfish or disloyal. It was necessary groundwork, a way to return to her life whole and capable of giving again. That first massage had marked more than a physical release. It had awakened something inside her, an awareness she hadn't felt in years. As Elena drove home, the crisp autumn air brushed softly against her face, and she noticed how golden leaves swirled in the streetlights. For the first time in months, she was fully present in her own life. David was home when she arrived, his face illuminated by the soft glow of the kitchen light. He looked up from his phone as she entered. "Hey," he said, offering a small, tired smile. "Long day," she replied with a nod, her voice calm, steady. She didn't rush to fill the silence this time. Instead, she unpacked the groceries slowly, letting the quiet feel natural instead of heavy. The stillness no longer unnerved her. It felt peaceful. She realized that even the simplest moments could feel rich if they were met with awareness. Over dinner, Elena decided to shift something subtle. Instead of the usual talk about chores or bills, she looked across the table and asked, "How did the meeting go with the new client today?" Her tone was gentle, genuinely curious. David paused, almost surprised by the question, and then smiled faintly as he began to describe his day. His voice came alive with the details, small frustrations, small victories, things he hadn't shared in a while. As he spoke, Elena found herself listening, truly listening. And for the first time in weeks, she felt the fragile thread of connection return between them. Later, as she stood at the sink rinsing dishes, warm water running over her hands, she reflected on that quiet shift. Not dramatic, not miraculous, but real. She thought about her own emotional landscape, about how tending to herself had given her the clarity to reach for him again, not from emptiness, but from a place of quiet strength.